but today is delivering justice through repair. And we've got a fabulous panel, and as we meet today, this is not just a theoretical debate, not just academic debate, because if it was, I wouldn't be here. It is a moral debate, it's an economic debate, and it's a debate that is fundamental to the human necessity. And by that I mean, unless we can resolve some of these fundamental differences amongst humanity, then humanity itself will carry the cost, and as we all see through the gross lack of empathy from anybody else's position other than the privileged. So it's important, and it's international, it's across the globe, and we're coming together to redefine what that power looks like. And from the Caribbean, you saw that the CARICOM's 10-point plan was an absolute blueprint, as well as the Sahel's rejection of French colonialism in West Africa. We're seeing a fundamental change, a new multipolar world. The old Washington consensus and the old order is falling away, and as that painful death takes place, we see the birth of something new coming. Yes, it's painful. Yes, you're going to hurt. But at the end, there'll be joy in the morning, even though there may be some darkness in the middle of the night. So it's important for us to keep our focus on that and understand that the world is changing. But for our movements are too fractured. If we are to fulfill the ambition of this conference today, then we're going to have to consolidate the leadership, accountability, the democracy of the entire movement in order that we can build a consensus that can get the systemic change I think we're all interested in. So we can't talk about global reparations without talking about local systems. I remember in the environmental movement many years ago, what did you say? Act local, think global, or was it the other way around? Think global, act local, was it? One of those two, yeah. So in relation to that then, and thinking about the international reparations movement, it's important to act locally. And that's why, you know, any struggle for racial justice in this country is central and part of the overall framework for dealing with reparations. I'm chair of the Alliance of Police Accountability. We're trying to get reparations for police oppression and brutality for decades on our community. You know, other community organisations are working for racial justice and equality in all of these different spheres. But the truth is that we know that even if I were to achieve all my objectives around police accountability, that wouldn't end white supremacism, that wouldn't end climate change, that wouldn't end world poverty. It might be good for me and my campaign, but in isolation, it's a silo achievement and one that will wear pretty thin as the global order continues to collapse and we see the kind of economic, social and moral degradation. It's not just an economic crisis. Anybody that's followed the international bond market will know we're on the precipice of another global recession, right? The Fed is printing money like it's going out of fashion. China is doubling down and ragdolling Trump all over the economic arena. The world is changing, right? And we've got to be positioned as revolutionaries to take opportunities when that change occurs. So I don't frighten of messy change. I like messy change, because when the terra firma begins to break up, then comes opportunities that were previously unseen. And I think we're seeing a very great opportunity today about conceiving and delivering reparations in the terms of climate justice, in the terms of international debt forgiveness and relief, in the terms of trade and investment, in terms of education, and moreover, all of the thousands of assets that we have. You know, we've got dead bodies of our African kings and queens rotting in some dusty shelf at the bottom of the British Museum, and we can't get to give them back to the communities and the people that they belong to. That is a heresy, a stain on this country, and it's part of the reparations movement that we'll see going forward. At that, I'm going to move on to our first speaker. I can't introduce you all, so because time is tight.
You have an hour in total from when you started, so we can have 7 minutes.
Oh, you can have 7 minutes? Who told you that?
Jordan, he came up here while you were full flow. He came and whispered in my ear.
Don't be sneaking up on Uncle when he's in mid-flow, because anything could happen. Are you with me on that point?
So you started 4:15, I got to 4:15.
Okay, I got to 4:15, so let's bash on then. So I'm going to introduce Zita Holbourne, And Zita and I go back way too many years. But she's a fabulous sitter. She's an artist. She's a trade union activist. She's an inspirationist. She's a mother. She's all those multifaceted Renaissance things that you want to see in a 21st century black woman. So we have 7 minutes. Please give a warm welcome to Zita Holbourne. Hold on. Are you like white people pretending to be black people? No, you're not. Oh, okay then. So let me do that again because I didn't feel no love in the air. So can I introduce Zita Holbourne? We're going to church.
So
we're going to church. Go.
You know you're going to have to keep that up now for all the other speakers. Keep your energies up. So, yeah, our shared history of enslavement and colonialism has left a legacy of racism and injustice, which has been amplified during recent historic developments, such as economic downturn. We've had over a decade of economic downturn and austerity, climate change and the impacts of that, you know, crisis situations for many people having to flee their lands, and the global pandemic, and not to mention these horrible, nasty racists and fascists on our street feeling emboldened. Lee and I co-founded BARAC UK in 2010. The fact that we're still going 15 years later when we thought it was going to be a short-lived campaign, not a whole organisation that lasted this long, is due to the onslaught of those attacks on our communities. A number of years ago, Lee and I, for BARAC UK, co-authored a report which was entitled A 2025 Vision for Race Equality. Not only have we not achieved the things that are in that report, we did call on politicians and local authorities and so on, and institutions to take forward what we were suggesting, but things have got worse.
Absolutely.
You know, since we authored that report. Black communities shouldn't be in a battle of survival in 2025 or have to navigate physical attacks on our streets when we walk out of our doors every day, or deal with threats of deportation, or fight for compensation for Windrush Home Office scandal and injustice. The targeting of refugees is directly linked to all of this too. People fleeing climate change, persecution, conflict and poverty, countries in the global south, black and brown people impacted by colonialism, countries where the West have gone in and interfered in those countries and caused destruction are the countries that people are having to flee from. So it was fine for Britain to go into those countries and pillage and steal and benefit. But when those same people, their descendants, are coming here because they've got no choice but to flee for their lives, they're told you're illegal immigrants, you're here coming to sponge off the government and the state and steal our jobs and steal our housing. The work, you know, looking at the key theme of this conference around reparations is directly linked. The work that we do as activists is directly linked to reparatory and healing work, because we're trying to eradicate injustice and racism, and we can't have healing and reparation. We can't repair if we're having to fight every day of our lives against all of those attacks. I also want to speak about the work I do in the creative sector, because it's also crucial and it's a form of activism too. I run a creative practice as well as, you know, being a community activist and trade unionist. And as a visual artist, as a poet, a writer, a vocalist, an educator, because education is really important to my creative practice, and curator. And all of the work I do in the creative sector is closely aligned with what I do as an activist, focused on equality, freedom, justice, and human rights primarily, but also about embracing roots, identity, and culture, which I feel is crucial and important for us to just feel uplifted and proud and be able to embrace our identities and cultures when we're told that we need to comply, you know, with the mainstream, and multiculturalism is dead and we need to integrate and all of this rubbish. I can't only have 1 minute left, surely. I'll rush them.
Sorry.
And as a socially engaged artist, working on many community and education projects with a focus on healing, well-being and telling our story and understanding our history and decolonisation, what I know is that most of these projects and most of the initiatives I work for example, I'm part of UNESCO Coalition of Artists for the General History of Africa, Writing Our Legacy, the World Reimagined, Commissioned Artists and Artists in Residence. Most of these things do not have proper funding. And so we're having to fund them ourselves or try and get funding. And we shouldn't have to fight for funding just to embrace our cultures and get healing and reparation. And so that's crucial as well for us to be able to advance, to feel included, to be able to celebrate who we are. As activists, our work is never done. And I'll finish on this, Lee. The onslaught of threats and attacks mean we never rest. And there's a toll on our mental health. There's, we burn out and we can't do it all. And very often we're badged as community leaders. So people are looking to us to be the solution for everything. Actually, how we make progress and how we're impactful is when we all work together. You know, we can all be an activist. We can all do something. We can't do everything, but there'll be a little something. Because yes, life is hard. Some of us are holding down 2 or 3 jobs. But if we all contribute, we answer any call to action. We come out to a demo. We sign a petition, small things like that. All of that makes a difference. But if we're looking at how we're going to go forward, we need to overcome having racist government leaders who are actually endorsing racist policies and laws, which means that people on the streets that are going on these demos that we've seen are emboldened to express and act upon their racist views, physically attacking and causing destruction. And the reason they're empowered is because the government and media are allowing them to have that empowerment. But we need to be empowered. We need to empower ourselves collectively. We need to lift each other up, stand shoulder to shoulder with each other and come out when there's action to take. Unfortunately, we shouldn't need to be fighting. I know I don't want to spend my life fighting racism. I don't want the next generation to spend their life fighting racism. But if we're going to have reparations, it's not about families getting a pocket of money in their hands because of what happened to their ancestors. It's about dismantling a racist a systemically racist structure that we have in the UK, and that has to come hand in hand with it. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zita. I'm going to move on now to Nadine White. You know, somebody had to drop out. Kayza Rose from Black Lives Matter had to drop out, unfortunately, for perfectly reasonable reasons. But what a substitute they gave me in Nadine White. So I'm delighted to introduce to you one of the foremost black journalists in the United Kingdom. She's the next generation of those who are chronicling, challenging issues of systemic racism every opportunity she gets. She's an award-winning writer, she's a filmmaker, and she comes from the roots of our community. So I'm glad to introduce my daughter, Nadine White.
Thank you. That's so nice. Thank you. Oh, okay, check. 1, 2. Thank you very much for that amazing introduction, Uncle Lee. And thank you, everyone, for being here today. It's an honor. So I know we're strapped for time. I have prepared some notes just outlining some of my initial thoughts in the context of reparations. So as a journalist and filmmaker, my reporting has often focused on the ongoing legacies of race and inequality in Britain. What's clear is that racism experienced today isn't accidental. It's the continuation of centuries of enslavement and colonial exploitation that were never truly accounted for. Reparatory justice then isn't just about money, it's about structural change. It's about policy reform, truth-telling, and the dismantling of systems built on racial hierarchy. It's about ensuring that the next generation of African people are not still paying a price for history's crimes. The CARICOM 10-point plan lays out a solid framework from formal apologies and educational reform to debt cancellation and public health initiatives. But I think that the real challenge, or one of the real challenges, particularly for those of us in the Caribbean diaspora here in the UK, is understanding where we fit within that agenda. If we're honest, the relationship between the diaspora and our home nations can feel fractured at times. Too many of us can't even get a call returned from our embassies or face endless bureaucracy trying to obtain citizenship by descent. We're often celebrated only when we make it, when we become a celebrity or an export success story. Until then, we exist in a kind of limbo, too Caribbean to be fully British, yet not fully embraced by the Caribbean itself. That is an issue that needs to be addressed if we're going to achieve cohesion and unity and advance this movement. So my question and my challenge is this: what is incentivizing us as diasporians to rally behind reparations movements when we're still struggling to be recognized as part of the Caribbean family? If we are to truly move towards reparatory justice, our approach must be inclusive. It must account for the millions in the diaspora who carry both the trauma and the pride of our ancestors' arrival. Reparations cannot only be negotiated in government offices or international summits. They must also be lived, felt, and practiced within our own communities through unity, access, and mutual respect. So I know that I'm running out of time. I believe that our power lies in storytelling, in truth-telling, and in bridging that gap between the region and its global children. Because until we repair those ties among ourselves, we can't expect institutions to repair what they've broken. And there's another issue that we have to confront honestly: public engagement across the diaspora. Many people are disengaged from the reparations conversation, not out of apathy, but disconnection. They don't believe it would touch their lives in any tangible way. They don't understand how reparations would work in practice, what it would look like in real terms, and how it would be distributed. You know, there's a consensus that reparations is just about money when there are different components to it. So that sense of distance is dangerous. Those are some of the key issues that I feel need to be addressed, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. You know, the debate for reparations can get externalized to, you know, what other people should be giving to us and what, but sometimes I think it's also internalized in terms of what we should be giving each other. Because I think unless we have internal reparations to repair the breach, as described by Nadine, internationally, the gender breach between men and women and all other false social divisions, then to some extent we're repeating the follies of the past. I'm going to move on directly to another journalist, somebody who you're going to see every morning on GMTV, giving them hell and make it, well, certainly speaking for myself, making me feel so very proud that people like Nadine and Nels are here to pass the baton on so I can retire, write books in Jamaica and see out my latter years. So please give Nels Abbey a very warm round of applause. Are those mics on?
Are these mics on?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I've always wanted to know this, and I've never had the opportunity to ask it, so I'm going to ask it right now. Maybe I can get the answer a little bit later. But to the gentleman in the back dressed like a British soldier, I've seen you at so many events, and I've always wondered what is the purpose. But we'll come back to you before you know it. So the PIF helmet, also the PIF helmet, those of you who don't know anything about colonialism or so, that has its baggage. Anyway, so my name is Nels. Yeah, so we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you in a couple of moments. So my name is, just paying homage to Zita and to Lee in particular. I'm also at an organisation called BARAC. I run two organisations. I run one called ABC, which stands for the Anti-Badenoch Coalition, and the other one's called BARAC, which is BRAC, which stands for the Black Activists Rallying Against Cooning. So anyway, so let's both of those were jokes, by the way. Both of those were jokes.
Did he just say coon on my stand?
I did not say that. No. Huh? I said rhymed with spooning. Anyway, so there we go. So it's an absolute delight and an honour to be here right now. So thank you so much. We speak today and we come together at a very, very critical time because we're of course speaking about our movement towards repair and the repair for the damage that was undeniably done onto us as a people. And I'll come back to that a bit more detail too. But in looking at repair, we should also be aware of the impending future assaults that we might be staring down the barrel of. So we stand here today with fascism quite firmly at the door. And I do not use that word lightly the slightest bit. This is something, we find ourselves in a very, very tricky situation in which the state, as run by the Labour Party right now, is basically seems to be actually be the warm-up dance for a very, very vicious, quite clearly white supremacist regime that will come in. You're seeing it in other places around the world. Also, I don't want to get my visa revoked more than I'm already in trouble, which might be too late for me not to get my visa revoked. But you're seeing it, of course, in America also, and that what they call it a rising tide of the far right or right-wing extremism. We call it white supremacy, and it's been an enemy upon to us since for the last 400 or 500 years, and it won't become a friend to us tomorrow, regardless of what Kemi might think. But.
Yes.
But in saying so too, I want to quote Fela Kuti. Not the Fela Kuti, just a tiny bit. I'm going to be spoken pidgin in one song. He said, "Natori I won't pull, history sef day inside small," which means I want to tell you a story, and it's a little bit of history inside it. Are you guys up for that?
Yeah.
We've only got 7 minutes. I'm not going to do the whole. And you're not paying me to, so I'm not going to do any much of a routine for you guys. But look, I want to say this to you too, that what we find ourselves here is a very, very interesting situation. So for the last 500 years, we have found ourselves under assault by this concept we call white supremacy, that we call racism, that we call fascism. And we must be very, very clear about it. We must be able to name our enemy. But we also have to know our enemy's weapons too. And far too often, our enemy's weapons are ourselves. Yes. That far too often, the strongest weapon in the hands of our enemy... Oh, sorry, I want to be very clear. For the Daily Mail journalists, the Telegraph journalists, I am definitely not saying white people are our enemy. No, they're not. Also, white supremacy, as represented by the Daily Mail and Daily Telegraph or so, is our enemy, and we're not scared about calling it out. White people are our allies, and some of them too have actually allowed themselves to be weaponized against us. But I want to speak specifically about how we are weaponized against each other. One of the biggest tools, when I remember I grew up in a place called Benson, and then I grew up in a place called Rugby, and I grew up in a place called Derby, which pretty much reveals to you that I was a British Nigerian kid who was pretty much just handed over to foster parents when I was little. What was interesting is that I didn't have any black friends except for one of them who lost his life when I was 8 years old under very suspicious circumstances. It's when I got to London that I realized that there was a lot more black people in the UK. And, but then it's also too that I realized that there was massive divisions amongst us. And it was also then, as I grew older, that I realized that we had been weaponized against each other. In our quest towards repair, towards justice or so, there is a range of weapons that are used against us. The one that is most frequently done is our history, which is often not really understood or studied, and far too often weaponized against us. And when I say that, I want to say this. I want to be very, very clear. Black people did not sell black people into slavery. Africans did not sell Africans into slavery. That is the first thing that jumps off the page of any article that's written about slavery or anything else, reparations. It must be very clear to you. Most people probably would never go to Nigeria. They'll probably never understand a Nigeria, for example. And most people, when they meet Nigerians, they're going to say, are you Yoruba, Hausa, or are you Igbo? Thinking they're just 3 ethnic groups. There's literally hundreds. I am Shikiri, which no one in this room's ever heard of. So we're from a very, very small ethnic group. Also, in fact, if the white man did show up, I would be Mohammed bin Salman right now. I'd be an oil prince. But because the white man did show up, I'm here talking to you guys about reparations. But the key thing about it is this, is that what I want to make clear to you is that the same way in which Europe is divided up into different areas, or so into different areas in which the Ukrainians are fighting the Russians today, in which the British were fighting the actual Germans yesterday or so, in which the British and the French have had so many different wars amongst each other, that is the exact same thing that was happening in Africa. But when you then take blackness or Africanness and diminish it down to you're all just black people, or as you're all just one big N-word who should have known better than to actually be in one situation with each other or another, it really makes it simple for them to actually weaponize you against each other and say that you did this to me. When in reality or so, the enslavement of Africans was an absolute unmitigated crime and a disaster for Africans no matter where they were, be they people who were taken and people who stayed at home, people who were fortunate enough to not be taken. I'll give you an example. It's not until when I was sent to Nigeria that I realized that, you ever met Nigerian people, African people who have scars on their faces sometimes? Do you know where that comes from? Some of it actually, a lot of it permeates originally from the fact that should you have been taken, should you have been captured, and they want to find a way to bring you back home, they could tell what ethnic group you came from. That's part of the purpose. So those scars are not just randomly, they're not wrestling moves. They are means of actually trying to make it clear to the people that you are one of us. And the same way they do with names, you are one of us too, in the exact same situation. But it goes beyond that. So after the fact that stopped for a while, then after the Biafran War, you then see light-skinned Yoruba people were putting scars on their face so they could make it clear that they were not Igbo people, and therefore they wouldn't be subject to, say, the genocide that the Nigerian state were waging on Igbo people at the time. The long story short of what I'm trying to say to you this is that you have to really know the weapons that are going to be used against you. And the key one is the lack of knowledge of black history. And not just black history where we come one together once every month, once every year or so, we speak about, say, a Mary Seacole or a Martin Luther King or anything else. But no, you have to really understand how Africa itself is actually constituted and how it's constituted and how everybody works together or so. I am being told I'm getting the umbrella treatment. I've got 1 minute left. So they're going to pit us against each other. And I think you're already seeing that right now in response to the work by Marcus and Lenny Henry, which is very, very necessary. Victim blaming is central to white supremacy. Not only will they blame the victim, they'll then shame the victim for actually recognizing the fact that they were victimized. And you have to recognize that too as something that's also going to be a tactic against you, that's going to weaponize against you too. And I think above all too, there's always going to be one mechanism or another that's going to shame you into silence, that's going to make you not want to take action, that's going to make you not want to actually do things. In short, I haven't got much time left or so I'm just going to wrap it up. And I know I've given a fairly sloppy-ish speech, which I could have done a lot better on. But I want you to know this also, that it's absolutely imperative that you realize that I stand here today right now as somebody, as an African man or so, whose parents didn't go through, whose forebears didn't go through the Middle Passage, didn't go through the Middle Passage disasters, who were not enslaved in the Caribbean. But I feel that pain as much as anybody else could potentially feel, and I feel the injustice of it whatsoever. And I've dedicated my life to making sure that, number one, that reparations are achieved, and number two, that we're all recognized as African people, and the prosperity that Africa should have, that Africans should have, no matter where they might be, is enjoyed by all of us and is used to protect us and used to eradicate the system of white supremacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And look, one of the fundamental challenges for the reparations movement is the changing demography of the black community in Britain. We're not monoliths anymore. You know, the fact is that those of African descent now outnumber those of us of Caribbean descent because of visa restrictions. The Caribbean birth rate in the UK is dying. Not on the islands, obviously, but they're just not migrating to England. And to be honest, I agree with them. They shouldn't migrate to England because England's streets are no longer paved with gold. They're paved with threat, racism, and violence at the minute. So I understand that. But what that means for the reparations movement is we have to reconfigure the way that we're orientating around these issues to make sure that we're a unified Pan-African community. Are you with me on that point? Yeah. And that just means accepting the reality. The demography's changed. And therefore, the strategy has to change, the priority has to change, and we need a grow-up conversation around that. I'm going to move on and take Mel Mullings. Now, Mel, if you don't know, you're going to find out, is the sort of RMT black woman superstar of the trade union movement. And if you know anything about the RMT and the nature of the beast inside that organization, then you know that she has got to be Bruce Lee skilled level to be able to deal with the institutionalized racism of the trade union movement. So please give her a big superstar welcome.
Greetings, all greetings. It's an honor to be at the APBG for African Reparations Conference at Friends House, and I stand with my comrades on this panel. I'd like to quickly pay homage to Miss Lou in light of Black History Month. She's a great Jamaican cultural icon, Miss Louise Bennett Coverley, Miss Lou. She was a poet, folklorist, and activist who dedicated her life to uplifting Creole or Jamaican patois. And if you'd like to know more, Robin Walker, the Black History Man, has a seminar that I had the privilege of teaching some children at the CSCP in Croydon. Miss Lou understands that our mother tongue, our Creole, our patois, is not a corruption of English, but a creative, resilient language born of the resistance and the genius of our ancestors. It is a fusion of African syntax and colonial vocabulary, a living archive of our survival and our symbol of our distinct identity. Our language is important because it is a testament to the fact that what was stolen could not be completely erased. I want to acknowledge the work of the APPG on African reparations, the Secretariat and the wider team, and those who laid the groundwork for this message within the trade union movement. Glenroy Watson, my mentor, trade unionist and reparations campaigner, the late Bob Crow, the RMT General Secretary, who greenlit the attendance of the first RMT Reparations Conference and supported our policy, Frank Murray, reparations and RMT trade unionist and campaigner, Carol Foster, former RMT member, reparations and Palestine campaigner, Glenn Hart, the first black officer of the RMT union and reparations campaigner and one of my mentors, Sister Judy Richards, Unison trade unionist, General Secretary of GAC UK, Sister Charmaine Simpson, Black History Studies, and I work with the Church Commissioners on reparations, Jacqueline McKenzie, tireless in the legal field and human rights. I also acknowledge the grassroots works in education by CSCP in Croydon, including Jacinth Martin and my mentor, Robin Walker. Yes, we demand the curriculum be changed, but we support the supplementary schools who are also engaging and finding fantastic teachers who teach our children Black History Studies every single weekend. We must continue to organize, working with grassroots organizations like the Reparations March Committee, Sister Shez, she's up there, GAC UK, while engaging with larger bodies like Lead Day, the APPG, Green Party, CERD, the UN, and CARICOM. The title of this panel is Racial Justice, Unity in Shared History and Justice. And to achieve a justice, we must be clear on the distinction between two necessary struggles: anti-racism work and reparatory justice work. Anti-racism work is essential. It aims to dismantle current ongoing racial discrimination, the systemic effects of racism, which sadly affect us up to this day. Reparation or reparatory justice work goes deeper. It demands accountability and compensation of the original historic crime, the chattel enslavement of African people, and the centuries of colonialism that followed. Anti-racism is about stopping the theft today. Reparations is about recovering what was stolen yesterday. You can't keep stealing and expect justice. You must return the stolen goods. This historic theft was stolen labor, the most profound form of theft of services. The wealth of the British Empire, including the very infrastructure of our industries like the railways, I'm a train driver, was built on the unpaid and violent exploitation of African bodies. This is not a metaphor, this is a concrete economic debt. The trade union's responsibility on reparations. This brings us to the core of the trade union movement's responsibility. If a union's purpose is to protect the value of members' labor, how can we remain ignorant or deliberately ignorant of the greater theft of labor in history? It is the union movement's responsibility to stand for the value of all labor, and that must include reparatory justice for the ultimate act of wage theft. Our union, the RMT, demonstrated this commitment by the first trade union to hold a reparations conference, the legacy which we celebrate 19 years. This must be a policy and a commitment across all unions. We must face the grim facts of how racism continues to affect our members. In 2024, there are approximately 6.4 million trade union members in the UK. But look at where our members, especially black members, are disproportionately represented. In 2022, black people were overrepresented in almost all stages of criminal justice system. Black defendants, for instance, were more likely to be sent to Crown Court and once convicted and of indictable offences received an average custodial sentence of 27.9 months compared to 21.2 months for white offenders. This is the result of deep structural racism. It's a stain on the system that means black people are 9 times more likely to be stopped and searched for drugs, despite lower rates of drug use than white people. These numbers are a direct consequence of a system founded in racial hierarchy, impacting everything from police targeting to the sexual harassment faced by black women in the transport industry. The struggle for justice. Our shared history is one of resistance against the structural racism. We remember the Mangrove 9, fighting police brutality, the New Cross fire, and the failure of the state to acknowledge the loss of 13 young lives, the Grenfell fire, where we saw the heroism of the Rastaman train driver waving the flag of community solidarity, and they tried to do him for that show of solidarity. We speak the names of the victims of continued injustice, Dejon Reed, Hossein Brown. We fight for injustice of the TFL deportation campaign, where transport workers are under threat because of the hostile environment that again said, because we need your labor, come here. But because we want to pander to reform, actually you're not welcome. Go on back to whence you came from in short order. Lastly, black workers, including those who had served in the armed forces, were immediately met with severe racial discrimination and the color bar in society. The government favored white European migrants, officially branding them as suitable immigrants, thus establishing a clear racial hierarchy in the post-war British and the labor and settlement policies. My reparations conference in my union is under threat. Please, if you can, and you feel minded to, message my General Secretary and tell him to keep the reparations conference alive, keep this movement alive. Solidarity to all.
Thank you. What is the name of your General Secretary? What's his name? Eddie Dempsey. Yeah, Eddie, we got a message for you, son. Take your backside hand off reparation money before the conference decides it's going to have to come to the RMT and show you which way is up. Because the people that are putting the work, like Glenroy, like Mel and others, are putting 25 years of sweat, blood and toil into the RMT, keeping reparations of your hand. How dare you come along and try and undermine that work? Support the sister, sign the petition. I'm going to move on, if I may, to somebody else who is a vanguard of our community. She is in the Labour Party. She's a locally elected councillor. She does so many things I can't got time to mention. But what I can say is that, look, those of us, we have to have a fully fledged strategy to get transformational change, right? You need people outside the house. You need people inside the house. You need academics. You need strategists. You need all of the different elements to put the team on the pitch likely to win the game. So give her a proper welcome, Councillor Jacqueline Burnett.
Afternoon, brothers and sisters. I just want to say...
Hold on. I don't know what kind of dry bones are in this valley today, boy, but listen, the way that black people operate, as far as I understand, is how we treat each other warmly. She said, good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're brothers and sisters. Right, I'm Jacqueline Burnett. You know, it's a beautiful and it's really good to be here today. And I want to add on to what my brothers and sisters have said about the reparation. And the key for me is it's now time for us to put the talking into action. I'm a child of the 60s. I've been reflecting on the race riots last year, and we've come full circle. And as sad as it is, there was a little in my spirit, because a lot of our people thought what we were going through now was in the past.
Exactly.
Yeah, up until last year, you're having a conversation with our elders and my generation. No, that's in the past. It's not anymore. And then, boof, well up, is all over the TV. And what we're going through is change. We're going through change, and we've got to accept that they're not going to give us what we are asking for easily. This is the resilience that is in our DNA. and power only concedes to power. We're 2 million in this country. We're not no small number. If all of us gave a little mickle, as my mum would say, every mickle make a mockle, to support each other, we would level up. And then we would level up. And then we would level up. Yeah? That's what we've got to do. We have to understand the difference between money and wealth. Money is not got any underwritten. Wealth is what they built. There are assets. The language in which we use must change. Yes, we have to understand the institution language when we're in the West, but then we've got to flip and we've got to go back to our African ancestral. So what we've got to do to survive is create our own ecosystem. So wherever we are in the world, we have resilience. And this is one of the key things we have not been doing because we're seeking assimilation. I want to be accepted. It don't matter what you wear, you're still brown. They're not going to take you. And we have to be proud and strong in who we are. Nell made a really good point, and I want to say what I've done in Luton. So in Luton, we've passed a Black Lives Matter motion. It's got 10 points. The council, I could only change or do something locally. So the community came together. The councillors, church leaders, community, and the next generation wrote a motion. It took a bit of a challenge to get through the system, as in the system, outside, but outside and inside linked together. And the motion was unanimously passed in 2021. But there were outcomes. We don't focus on the outcome. Outcome is economics. There is curriculum changes. Now, if I pass away tomorrow, the legacy we leave to my ancestors in Luton if they've got something to hold people accountable. But I've also been working with my brothers and sisters that are Ghanaian, that are Igbo, that are Yoruba, because they don't care about our tribe and they don't know our tribe, but we do. So that grounding that I have experienced, that's the healing. We need to heal ourselves. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. They don't care about us. We need to see the value of time, because time has a monetary value, and spend time on ourselves. The education that Robin's done, that has been brilliant. We've all done work on ourselves. We need to continue. We need to take the next generation with us on this. So know your value, understand money and financial literacy, and the difference between cash and wealth. They don't want to let go of their wealth. And I don't know who ever thought with them saying, yeah, we got all this wealth, that they were going to go, yeah, you know what, here's the check. No, because you know what? There has been advantages to them. So we need to level up. China, in 50 years, are equal players on the world stage. They leveled up. They used their little money and borrowed to America. America owes a lot of money to China. Go and check. America's indebted to China, #1, and Japan. Look what, in our lifetime, how they change it, because they have a mindset that is we work together. Then they implement the behavior as a default setting. That's what we need to do. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. And it's so important to understand the global context for our struggle, because we could achieve reparations tomorrow, but if climate change happens, what worth of reparations? There are some fundamental challenges facing the world that prioritize above everything, because if you don't have the right to life, then you have the right to nothing. And I think climate change is one of the most existential crises facing the world. I just came back from Jamaica. I've been to Africa recently. And if you see the rapidity of the change of cycles and the severity of weather that is impacting upon farming, that is making life unsustainable and leading to the greatest international African migration ever seen in world history, all of those people are heading to Europe to find a better life for economies that have either been undermined through war, undermined through international development, so-called aid, or the dramatic impacts of climate change. And so in all that we do, let's also focus on the thing that is likely to save the planet as well as the people. Are you with me on that point? Okay, so I'm going to move on to questions from the audience. I'm going to take them in groups of 3. Not every panelist needs to answer every one. We've got 15 minutes. I'm sorry it's short, but you know the score in terms of how we started late. So let me see those hands in the air. I've got 1. I want another 2. Quickly, come on. Don't be shy, because when the time runs out, you'll be sticking your hand in the air saying, but, and I won't be taking you. 2, and 1 over there, 3. Let's go. Starting with you, Mr. Capone. Eddie. I don't know. I'm on the stage, so hold on. Sorry, we got a roving mic here. Now, can I just ask those of you here, we only got 15 minutes. It has to be a question, not a statement, and you got 1 minute.
No, it's definitely a statement. Good afternoon, everybody. Greetings. My name is Eddie Capone. I'm the chairman of the Marcus Garvey Legacy Trust. And I'm very inspired this afternoon, actually, by some of the grassroots stuff that's going on and what individuals and organizations are doing. But the question that I want to ask is how much of this work is being challenged to CARICOM and African Union? Because one of the things that I think we do have to bear in mind and be very mindful of, those are the 2 organizations that European governments are going to listen to and the British government is going to listen to. They're not going to listen to us, but we are doing the work. And it's important that these amazing work that has been taking place should feed into CARICOM.
You're over a minute. Thank you. It should feed into CARICOM. We agree. I've got to move on.
Point I wanted to make. I don't know if it is. I think this information should come to this group.
The panel will answer.
You've got the answer?
Somebody on here will have the answer.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Moving straight. I know I'm not trying to be brutal. I'm just trying to get as many questions in as possible. So please bear with me. The next one was Frank over here, and then it was over there. Who indicated over there again? Raise your... Was it the gentleman at the end in the leather jacket? It was you, wasn't it? No? Go ahead, Frank.
Yes, you know, everybody knows we are living in dangerous times. The thing is, I'll make it short. Do we sit back and watch the wait for the revolution to happen? Or do we organize so that if the revolution does happen, we know what we can do? Finish there.
And the final 3rd question, where are you? You're hiding. I can't see you. Anybody else want to ask a question? Ask now. Quick. There you go. Can you get the mic up there? Yeah. Keep fit now. Up.
Give thanks and greetings to the house. Greetings. My question is, what is the panel's definition of reparation?
Okay.
Simple.
Okay. The age-old question, like the definition of blackness. So here we go. So you've got 3 questions. One is everything feeding through to the CARICOM? And is CARICOM aware of what we're doing? The other is, do you sit down and wait for the revolution to come for somebody else to deliver it? Or do you have another strategy? And the 3rd one is, how do you define reparations? Who wants to go?
I'll take the second one.
Go.
Really quickly. Well, we are organising right now, so we're not waiting to organise. We are literally organising in real time. This is what this looks like, and of course, this is the rallying side of it. There will be other things that emerge from here too. So yeah, that's that. Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else on the panel? Go ahead.
The first question. Greetings, Brother Eddie. So I am part of GAC UK, and there are other grassroots reparations organisations that go to these organisations. When the UN comes, they get their own money together, they get on a plane, and they go to Geneva, and they attend. So people are challenging the UN, they are challenging CARICOM, and yeah, I think they're not being listened to, because I think somebody talked about the AU, and there's only a few people that sit on it. They're not very democratic, they're not grassroots, we have to get ourselves involved in these things so that they know what we're doing on the ground. So that's simply what I'm saying. We are challenging it, but there could be more of us challenging it.
I'll take the definition of reparations, and I guess it means different things to different people, but I think it means a lot of things. It's not a simplistic answer. It is about healing, it's about well-being, it's about freedom, it's about justice, equity, equality, not having to fight against racism and injustice and against the system that we're in the middle of, setting a positive legacy for future generations.
It's also about money. When the Europeans showed up in the 1600s, they came to us because they wanted to get rich out of us, and they extracted wealth out of us for hundreds of years. For hundreds of years, when they so-called abolished slavery or so, they went back again to actually colonize us or so, actually slavery from home, as I call it, which they robbed us of our identities once again, en masse, on a much bigger scale or so, and enslaved us again too. I don't think we should be ashamed of that. We are here. As Martin Luther King said, we are coming for our check.
Okay.
And I think it's not, just about an individual paycheck. I think we need to look at the institutions and the families that have benefited from the enslavement of our ancestors and the wealth that they have and how they profit and live well and live good off the backs of the pain and toil and destruction and murder of our ancestors. And it's about redistribution of that wealth as well as about individual reparations.
Okay, time's pressing. I've still got Nadine who'd like to...
Oh, no.
No. Sorry, Jackie.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to the brother there about the revolution. It is actually happening. I think we need to look at things in a slightly different nuance. And because we live in the West and we see things from a certain angle, doesn't mean that it's not taking place. I do believe it is, because we're having the conversation. The younger people are mobilising, but they're doing things differently. And that's what I've said with what's gone on with the far right in Luton. What is taking place is different, and everybody has to get it. They're not going to riot, and they're not going to protest like what Lee done or Zita. They understand money and wealth way better than their grandparents. And we've got to understand that. And how do we support them and protect them as elders as we move forward? This is likely to get worse before it gets better. We have to ask ourselves, if Farage is Prime Minister in 2029, what do we do and what have we done to insulate ourselves? That's what we need to be doing now. Thank you.
2 more questions. Okay, so... Anybody else want to put a question to the panel?
Can I ask a question,
you
please?
Can indeed.
Daniel Davison, I'm a member of the Reparations March community, and I like to be active and play my role because I think activation is really key. In terms of the monetary gains, and we summarise what our repair comes to, the question I want to ask is, Robin's taught me in terms of the historical way we used to manage our income, our money. We've been brought up with a European kind of monetary system. Mm-hmm. How's it important for us to go back Sankofa and remember how we lived before we was, displaced? And can we utilise it and upgrade it so we have a way that is beneficial for us financially and economically?
Beautiful question. Take one more. Sister at the back there with
Simeon Brown.
Where is he?
There he is, there.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't see him. So I'll come to you, Simeon, after this lady here. With the... Red.
There was a gentleman there who asked a question, and I was really interested in the answer. I don't think anyone answered him.
What was the
about how we can bring more people?
The question the brother asked was, how do we get more people to come to somewhere like that?
We're taking questions in 3. So, Simeon, you're next. Over here, brother. Right at the end. Sorry, making you go end to end here. There you go, Simeon.
Don't talk any foolishness.
The question was built on the back of Nels's point about we're coming for a check. The movement has made a lot of progress in terms of making sure the narrative is central, but if we are expecting a Farage premiership, what then becomes the strategy for dealing with a government who is openly against all the things that we are pushing for as a movement, how then do we pivot and what then becomes the plan?
Yeah, got that. Okay, 3. Are you asking a question?
Yeah, well, same thing. Yeah.
Shh, I can't hear you.
People can then watch all of the sessions.
So has this been live streamed today?
It's been live streamed today.
Oh, we should have told me in the beginning.
Lily, watch out. Yeah.
So if everyone was on time, a lot of people drop off the call when we don't start our sessions on time, so that is a pointer to...
I hear you. Okay, panel, thank you for that clarification. So going back to the panel, do you want to offer your answers to those final 3 questions? Go ahead.
It's really good that Belle came in to ask the point that the brother made, how to get more people here. I would say we bring somebody. I think that would be good, and we have conversations within our community to encourage people to attend. And maybe in the future, it is held somewhere else, maybe. I know the Quakers have been really good, and I know about sponsorship, but a lot of people feel, oh, why am I coming all the way to London? Because it is expensive, even off-peak. That's always the question that I was asked by the brother about if what we need to do is plan. There's a saying, them who fail to prepare prepares to fail. So if you can see something's coming and there's a massive storm ahead, each of us need to have a plan. That's what we need to do. I know some people are starting to plan. They're not waiting, they've got their plan. And that's what we need to do. And also with regards to the economics going back, we need to tap into books like Robin would have done, communalism, it's not community, but the community worked together, did bartering and all those sort of things. After the last financial crash in 2008, that did start to resurface a bit, and then it died. But those are the sort of things we trade with each other, because money has not got any value. That's what we need to learn. Thanks.
All right, anybody else on the panel want to respond at this stage? No. I'm going to wrap up. I'm not going to take the final comments from the speakers, just because we've run out of time. So may I have your indulgence and just wrap that up? Look, we've got very serious times ahead. As well as facing this incredible climate change crisis, we have a social and democratic crisis where people's confidence in the democratic neoliberal institutions is waning by the minute. Nobody has any confidence in their democracies, which is why they're turning to the extreme right. And the reason they're turning away from democracies is because neoliberal politics has been full of bullshit for the last 50 years, and people have finally woken up and smelt that coffee. So nobody is going to be thinking that this neoliberal system, whether it's Farage, whether it's Starmer, whether it's whoever, whether it's the leader of the Greens, we're very clear, or at least I'm very clear, that you could change them and get anybody you wanted in those positions. The end process is going to be the same. Because unless you go for global revolutionary transformation of the current economic and democratically accountable systems, then you're tinkering at the edges, and whatever you may get in terms of your siloed efforts will be overwhelmed by the catastrophe facing the planet in terms of climate change. And where does that catastrophe strike its hardest? In our global South communities. And that's why those of us in the privileged position of being here in the belly of the beast must stand up as real revolutionaries and press this government and all European governments that they must come to a global resolution on providing reparations for the global African diaspora and the community. Thank you so much. Take care. Safe journey home.